For those of us who have watched this show since the late 90s and early 2000s, what is unfolding right now feels like a direct, calculated callback to one of the most agonizing chapters in our beloved Enforcer's history. If you have been paying attention to the breadcrumbs, you know exactly what I am talking about. Decades ago, we watched in absolute horror as a certain leather-clad protector was backed into an impossible corner, forced to surrender his freedom and work as a reluctant asset for a clandestine intelligence agency. Why? Simply to keep a certain blonde powerhouse out of federal prison for insider trading? That era of shattered trust and sheer psychological torment defined a whole generation of the show. Now, it looks like the writers are dragging us right back into that very same trauma, but flipping the script in a way that feels almost like a slap in the face to the history we thought we knew. The revelation that the ultimate puppet master might actually be the man we thought was a victim is a staggering twist that demands our absolute scrutiny. If you ask me, we are looking at a deeply dangerous deadlock, a stalemate of epic proportions playing out on the outskirts of town. We are led to believe that Valentin is risking everything, putting his own freedom on the line, to meet with the enigmatic and terrifying head of the agency known only as Z. Valentin is a man who prides himself on being the smartest person in any room, a master manipulator who always anticipates his opponent's next move. Yet, as he steps into the shadows for this clandestine meeting, expecting to find a faceless bureaucratic tyrant, he is seemingly met with a ghost from his own backyard. It appears that the mysterious Z is none other than Jason. Just let that sink in for a moment, guys. The sheer psychological weight of this encounter cannot be overstated. Valentin suddenly finds himself completely outmaneuvered by a man he likely dismissed as a mere muscle-bound enforcer. You have to consider the psychological motive behind Valentin's reaction in this moment. This is a man whose entire identity is built on control and superiority. To realize that Jason has been pulling the strings on a global scale is nothing short of earth-shattering for him. It looks like Valentin is experiencing a profound sense of shattered trust, not just in his own intelligence-gathering capabilities, but in his fundamental understanding of the power dynamics in this town. If Jason is truly the man behind the curtain, it completely rewrites every interaction, every threat, and every alliance these two men have ever shared. Could it be that Valentin is finally realizing he is nothing more than a pawn on Jason's meticulously arranged chessboard? To truly understand the gravity of this potential revelation, we have to journey back into the show's rich history. Longtime viewers will vividly recall the agony of Jason being blackmailed into serving this very agency. It was a calculated move by the authorities, leveraging the one thing Jason could never turn his back on: Carly. When Carly was facing devastating federal charges for insider trading, Jason sacrificed his own autonomy, allowing himself to be leashed by the agency to guarantee her freedom. For years, we believed that this period was a dark stain on his life. We all assumed he despised the organization, but this new development forces us to question that entire narrative. What if that initial blackmail was merely the catalyst for a much grander, far more insidious transformation? This brings us to the infamous tunnel collapse, a tragedy that supposedly claimed Jason's life and left our town mourning for years. If you ask me, that catastrophic event provided the absolute perfect cover for a man looking to reinvent himself in the shadows. It looks like Jason did not just survive that collapse. He may have used it as an opportunity to vanish completely off the radar and embed himself deeply within the agency's hierarchy. The psychological motive here is fascinating. Perhaps Jason realized that as long as he was a visible target in town, Carly and his loved ones would always be vulnerable to external threats. By faking his demise and ascending the ranks of the very organization that once tormented him, he could ensure that no one would ever hold that kind of leverage over him again. Think about the sheer willpower and strategic brilliance required to go from a blackmailed operative to the undisputed head of a global intelligence network. This implies that Jason spent all those missing years orchestrating a silent, ruthless coup from within. Every mission he undertook, every alliance he forged, could have been a calculated move to position himself as the ultimate authority. It is a staggering thought, guys. The man who was once forced to do the agency's dirty work might have methodically eliminated his superiors, rewritten the protocols, and claimed the throne of Z for himself. And the most brilliant part of this potential strategy? No one in his old life had the slightest clue. He allowed them to grieve, all while watching over them from the highest vantage point imaginable. Now, let us examine Jason's current situation, which only adds fuel to this speculative fire. As we know, the official story being peddled right now is that Jason is currently sitting in federal custody, supposedly taking the fall and covering up the fact that young Rocco was the one who actually shot Cullum. On the surface, this looks like classic Jason sacrificing his own freedom to protect a child. But if Jason is indeed Z, this entire narrative completely falls apart. It looks like his supposed incarceration is nothing more than a brilliantly constructed illusion. Could it be that this custody is actually a highly secure, heavily guarded command center? By appearing to be locked away, Jason effectively removes himself from the board in the eyes of his enemies, giving him the perfect cover. This brings us to the ultimate ulterior motive behind this grand deception. If Jason is secretly running the show from behind bars, it implies that he is actively orchestrating a massive, multi-tiered operation to permanently eliminate the most dangerous threats currently plaguing our town. We are talking about Cullum and Sidwell. These two have been wreaking havoc and setting chaotic traps. But what if they are walking blindly into a trap set by Z? By using Valentin as his emissary and maintaining the facade of being a helpless prisoner, Jason is luring Cullum and Sidwell into a false sense of security. He is letting them believe they are winning, right up until the moment he snaps the trap shut. It is a masterful, cold-blooded strategy that perfectly aligns with a seasoned intelligence director. When we break down the potential directions this storyline could take, we are essentially looking at two very distinct paths. Let us dive into Scenario A. In this scenario, Jason is the willing and absolute mastermind of this entire global operation. He did not just inherit the title of Z, he ruthlessly conquered it. This implies that Jason has fundamentally changed on a psychological level. The enforcer we once knew has evolved into a cold, calculating general who views the world as a massive chessboard. In Scenario A, Jason's primary goal is total control. He realized that the only way to truly protect Carly and his family was to become the biggest, most terrifying monster in the room. He is using Valentin not out of necessity, but as a deliberate test to see if Valentin can be a useful asset. If Scenario A is the reality we are dealing with, the unforeseen fallout for the rest of the canvas will be absolutely catastrophic. Imagine the sheer devastation when Carly finally discovers that the man she has mourned, the man she has loved and relied upon, has been pulling the strings of a corrupt agency this entire time. The betrayal would be unfathomable. Furthermore, in this scenario, Jason's plan for Cullum and Sidwell is likely fatal. He is not looking to arrest them or bring them to justice. He is looking to eradicate them with extreme prejudice to protect his empire. This version of Jason is terrifying because he is no longer bound by the emotional ties of his past. He is bound only by the chilling logic of maintaining absolute power as the elusive Z. Now, let us pivot and examine Scenario B, which offers a slightly more tragic and sympathetic interpretation of these events. Could it be that Jason is a prisoner of his own making? In Scenario B, Jason did not seize power out of a desire for control, but out of grim necessity. Perhaps during his time in the shadows, he uncovered a plot so devastating, a threat so immense, that the only way to stop it was to take the reins of the agency himself. This implies that Jason is playing the role of Z reluctantly, wearing a heavy crown that he desperately wishes he could cast aside. He is trapped in a gilded cage of his own design, forced to make morally ambiguous decisions to prevent a greater evil from destroying the people he loves. If we are looking at Scenario B, then Jason's meeting with Valentin is not a display of dominance, but an act of sheer desperation. It looks like Jason might actually need Valentin's unique skill set to dismantle the corruption from within. Cullum and Sidwell might not just be rogue agents. They could represent a massive insurrection within the agency itself, a faction that Jason is struggling to control. By bringing Valentin into the fold and revealing his true identity as Z, Jason is taking a monumental risk, hoping that Valentin's hatred for Cullum will align with his own goals. In this scenario, Jason's custody is a desperate bid for safety, a way to hide from the rogue elements within his own organization while he tries to clean house. Regardless of whether we are dealing with Scenario A or Scenario B, the linchpin of this entire explosive storyline is Valentin. He is now burdened with the most dangerous secret in the world. What does a master manipulator do when handed the ultimate trump card? If you ask me, Valentin is currently weighing his options with chilling precision. Does he expose Jason, potentially unleashing the full wrath of the agency upon the town? Or does he keep the secret, entering into a fragile alliance with the new Z to ensure Cullum's destruction? The psychological motive for Valentin is complex. He wants to save his daughter, but he also despises being out of control. This knowledge gives him a sliver of leverage over Jason, a dangerous dynamic that could easily backfire and result in an unforeseen fallout. At the end of the day, guys, we are left staring into a very dark and unpredictable abyss. If you are hoping for a neat and tidy resolution where Jason comes home, explains everything, and all is forgiven, I highly suggest you lower your expectations. The psychological scars of this deception run far too deep. Whether Jason is a cold-blooded mastermind orchestrating a global empire, or a tragic hero trapped by his own sacrifices, the man who left this town is not the man who has returned in the shadows. We are witnessing a calculated move that will forever alter the landscape of our favorite drama. Will Valentin be the one to tear down the curtain, or will he become just another loyal soldier in Jason's hidden army? Only time will tell, but if you ask me, the real bloodshed has not even begun.